name is Kylie and I'm the founder of Egg. Welcome to this very special podcast, a live recording of our International Women's Day Women on Top event with Lauren Currie OBE, recorded at the W Hotel in Edinburgh. For those of you who don't know Lauren, she is the founder of UPFRONT, an organisation whose mission it is to revolutionise confidence and visibility for 10 million women. Lauren's work has empowered thousands of women to step forward, own their voices, and challenge the status quo. It was an incredible conversation with some powerful takeaways. Lauren acknowledged that the world isn't always kind to confident women, and that 28% of women who run their own businesses charge less than their male counterparts. Why? Because we've been conditioned to undervalue ourselves. Want to hear how to value yourself more so you can step up and step out? Listen in. And in Egg News, I discussed the launch of the Egg Business Membership. I've spent 10 years building one of the UK's largest networks for women. I've supported hundreds, if not thousands of women to set up and scale a business. And now I'm taking all this resource and experience and channeling my energies into something new. As part of this new membership, I'm delighted to announce the Egg Business Club, a place for you if you're looking for an authentic space filled with ambitious and supportive women, as well as exclusive events and resources to help you grow. Here's a QR code to join. A huge thank you to our friends at Free Agent for sponsoring our Women on Top events. Free Agent is an accounting software platform designed to make life easier for business owners and freelancers. I've been a customer and fan since the very early days of Egg, and I think they're brilliant. Okay, on with the show. I hope you enjoy. How are you?
I am well. No, I'm good. I mean, Scotland's my favourite place in the world. So I'm super happy to be here.
And you've just been up on the roof. It looks a wee bit blowy up there.
In the sunshine.
Nice.
There's no sunshine in Sweden at
yes.
this time, so I'm super happy to be in the sunshine.
And you've been very busy, planes, trains, automobiles in London yesterday. What were you doing there?
I was keynoting for a built environment company who are hosting the first bond for the built environment. So that's really exciting. It's a very male-dominated industry with lots of outdated norms. Then, you know, they're ready to challenge the status quo. So it was good. Good.
Now we're going to talk about UPFRONT, your bonds, all that sort of thing very soon. I know I heard some women talking, they're keen to join your bonds, which is fantastic. But do you know that I want to take it kind of back a wee bit, take it back to wee Lauren, little Lauren.
Yep.
Growing up in Glasgow, because, you know, as I said in the intro, when I saw you many years ago, and lots of the stuff that I've seen about you on podcasts, public speaking, TED Talks, I just look at you and think, well, she's always been confident. That's lucky. Lucky Lauren. She's always been that way. Why did I not have a little bit of Lauren growing up? But I know a bit more because I've dug a bit deeper, and I know that's not always true. That's not strictly true. So can you tell me a little bit about growing up, your family life, and I know school played a bit of a part in your confidence journey?
Yeah, so I think that kind of assumption of, you know, you see somebody who seems to have their shit together and you assume that they are that way all the time. And I think it's one of the biggest myths that we need to bust, is this idea that confident people are confident all the time. It's like confidence ebbs and flows. You can be really confident in one area of your life, not so confident in other areas of your life. So for me, I am naturally very extroverted, in case you hadn't already noticed. And I do think, you know, we do live in a world that rewards extroverted confidence and that rewards extroversion. And I think that isn't a great thing for anybody, for all of us. It's something that UPFRONT is really intentional about, talking about what introverted confidence looks like and really making space for the truth that confidence can be quiet and slow and gentle. And it's not about who is the loudest or who's the most excitable. But I think my kind of natural extroverted tendencies meant that I loved attention, I loved being in the spotlight, I loved performing, I loved dancing, I used to win poetry competitions. In primary school was a really positive experience. You know, my parents were very supportive. I also have a very extroverted mum who all my childhood, she had a full-time job and a side hustle. And so I grew up listening to her hustle, like on the phone. she's an artist, she used to make things that people would buy for their homes. And, I would hear her pitching herself. It's like now I can look back and see that was a kind of constant playlist in my life. And then I think as I moved through secondary school, that was where things started to change. And I remember my English teacher saying to my parents at parents' night, you do realise that Lauren's trying to pretend that she's not clever. And now I understand that there is a moment, I think, for all of us, probably everybody in this room, where, whether it's intentional or not, you start to hide your cleverness. You start to hide your enthusiasm. You start to hide your energy. You start to hide yourself because you're getting signals from the world that that's not welcomed. It's like the world is not kind to confident girls. The world's not kind to confident women. That's why up front our strapline is, we're here to change confidence, not women. It's like we want to build a world where confident women are celebrated and rewarded and appreciated and recognised, like exactly what we're doing today. So I think that was where things started to become more difficult. I definitely experienced a lot of, who does she think she is? She's too big for her boots. I grew up in Kilmarnock, so any of you from that part of the world, I think, hey! Kilmarnock's got its very own flavour of who does she think she is? And, there was a lot of challenge, difficulty with other girls. There was a lot of negativity and, scribbles on toilet doors. And I just had this very strong sense of being an outsider and not quite feeling that I could be myself. And I think at university, it was a bit better. I've got some university friends in the room. But looking back, I think I was still adhering to these rules of course, you want to do good, but not too good. And, you want to get good grades, but not too good. And, you want to dress up and feel great, but not too great. Don't upset anybody. And it's like we're all living tiptoeing around these invisible lines. And it's not until you cross one that you realise, it's like the conversation we just had, everybody's on your side and cheering for you until you get to a certain stage and it's like, we wanted you to do well, but not that well, rein it in a bit. And obviously, through building up front, I'm on my own confidence journey, and the biggest theme for me in my own confidence right now is internalised misogyny. I think if I started up front 10 years ago, if I was to build the same business and start it today, the focus would be internalised misogyny. I think Upfront's my 6th business. All of my businesses have been on the edges of trends, ideas, shifts in culture and conversation, which is brilliant. Not so great when you're trying to build a sustainable business, but that's the kind of space I always find myself in. And when I was thinking about what would that be for Upfront now, I think it's the conversation about what role are women playing in the systems that we are trying to dismantle and navigate. How are we holding those patterns and systems up and harming each other? And how are we taking accountability for the role that we play in our own biases and our own prejudices, and how we connect to our friends and our female colleagues, and to Nicola Sturgeon, to Taylor Swift, to Meghan Markle. We are surrounded in stories of women being pitted against each other. And I think we need to really own it and look at it, because the patriarchy's having a great time just watching us all fight with ourselves.
And you talked about crossing that line. There was a time when you were playing small, and we'll talk about tall poppy syndrome in a minute, but when did you kind of say, right, that's enough, I want to live to my full potential, I want to be confident and live my best life? You talked about crossing that line. When did that happen and how did it happen?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a specific which isn't as sexy for your clips for social media. But I don't think there was a particular moment or a particular day that I remember. I think it's been a lot of self-work, a lot of conversations with coaches, with therapists, with my partner, with my friends who have known me since I was wee, who really know the real me and helping me see my potential. And, I think there's this lovely phrase from the author who wrote The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron, and she talks about that you need to have believing mirrors in your life. It's like mirrors who are believe in you so much, they're constantly mirroring back to you what you're capable of. And the conversations that I have with my partner in particular, most weeks, are him mirroring to me that I am, I'm still, he's like, where's the Netflix show? Where's the novel? Where is that? Because and that's how he sees me. And if I'm really honest, that's how I see me too. But that feels scary to say out loud because that feels a bit too much. It's like that. So I think it's a journey that I'll be on forever. It's like you don't ever graduate from confidence. I'm so sorry, you can't get a gold star. There's no, you can't get a sticker. It's a thing that it's always changing. And I think confidence comes from going to the place where you don't have any. It's like I ran a marathon a couple of years ago, going from not being a runner at all. And I do these kind of wild things that don't make sense, but it's like I just decided that was something that I wanted to do. It was incredibly difficult, but I had no confidence. It's like I've never done this before. It's physically and mentally challenging. I don't even know anybody who runs. I didn't grow up with people run. It's just like it was just very far away from my comfort zone, and it's like that's now a whole area that I have built new confidence in that I didn't have before, and so. My goal is to always be moving to those spaces. And, maybe it's a marathon, maybe it's about generating a certain amount of revenue, maybe it's about stepping into the spotlight even more and figuring out what that Netflix show looks like or whatever it might be. But you have to be you're constantly stretching and constantly growing because there's no limitation. There's no ceiling. Like confidence is infinite. And it's a really, really beautiful thing because it's contagious and we all need more of it.
So it's surrounding yourself with people who believe in you because your partner sounds very like my husband in terms of, that kind of nighttime pep talk, and where yours is talking about Netflix show, mine's talking about franchising, so slightly less sexy. But, and I kind of go, I'm just not quite ready for that. And I need to do X, Y, Z. And he's like, well, I'm good at spreadsheets. I'm great at processes. When do you want me to start? I'm like, ooh, okay. We'll talk about it next week. But he is very much like that. I love that, a believing mirror, and sometimes you just need that. You need that quiet confidence, those cheerleaders in your corner. How do you find them? Have they always been kind of in your life? Have they always been kind of friends that you've surrounded yourself? And how do you find a believing mirror and get rid of ones that are non-believing?
Because there's a lot of them. I think it's more difficult than we acknowledge because I think it goes back to what we said. It's easy for, especially, if you're an entrepreneur, you're a founder, you're a freelancer, like many of you in the room are, you're putting yourself out there, you're saying, I'm going to do this scary thing. I'm going to do something nobody in my family's done before. I'm going to do something that is walking away from a paycheck to do this thing that people around me think's a bit mad. And, a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, you do that, that's great. And then as you progress and get to a certain point, those people start to disappear. And it's almost like every level that you reach, you need to find new people. And I think that's why communities like Egg and the Upfront Bond community are so important because all of the data shows us that when women have a strong network, and I don't think it's, I always think, am I the only founder that doesn't have the WhatsApp group of 6 other founders who's like, yeah, you can do that. It's like, I don't have that. I've never had it. And some days I feel like I'm the only one that doesn't have that. But a lot of you are like, I also don't have that.
We'll set one up after.
Yeah, because that's the dominant narrative that we hear. And I think the truth is, for me, I can count those people on one hand. You know, the people who are always standing by me and who always have my back. There are hundreds and thousands of people, like many of you here, who I know are, you know, channeling good energy and celebration, and you're following me on social media and you're connecting with me, and that I also do feel that energy, and it does make a difference. You know, I think in moments where I'm going through my own, okay, I need to get over myself or stop overanalyzing or get out my own way, I think, you know, what would I say to all of you if I was sitting here? It's like it really forces me to practice what I preach, and it holds me accountable to know that there's communities of amazing people like you who are watching me. You know, that I take that really seriously. I think it's a privilege and an honor, but it's also quite scary. You know, there's a lot of, as we've talked about, the world is not kind to women in the spotlight. The world is not kind to women who are public figures, especially public figures who are talking about money and who are challenging the status quo and who are kind of on the edge of conversations about equity and equality. You know, that's a risky place to play.
That's a dangerous, a very uncomfortable space to be in. And it's what I spoke to you about before when you got to that £1 million revenue and talked about it and celebrated it, as you most certainly should have. There was that kickback. And I think for many women in the room, and for me, there's that time where you want to talk about the money that you want to make, you know, the financial freedom that you want to have. And it's always slightly uncomfortable doing that. But I think that's my area now of saying, do you know what, it's okay to say you want lots of revenue, you want to grow a team, you want more money in your bank, you want to be financially free. There's nothing wrong with admitting to that. But I know you had kickback at the...
Yeah, and it's interesting because when that moment... So really quick context, UPFRONT was my side project for nearly 6 years on the side of my other businesses. So I've been building businesses for 15 years. I built my first business when I was 23. And for the first 6 years of UPFRONT, it was like my favourite side project. I just loved it so much, made me so happy, brought me so much joy. But I was like, I'm never going to make any money. It's never an actual business. And I now see that was all sorts of limiting beliefs, fear, all sorts of things going on there. But I worked through it, and I got to a place where I took the leap, which I know something that we maybe want to talk about. Is like, when do you decide? I'm putting all my eggs in this basket. If you've got two businesses, how do you make them work alongside each other? And so I took the leap, and in 23 months generated £1 million of revenue with no funding and with one part-time member of staff-ish. And when that happened, I was obviously like, holy shit, that's amazing. And I was happy. And then I was like, I'm not going to tell MD, obviously. And a really good friend of mine, James Routledge, who is the founder of Sanctus, a mental health charity, a mental health startup. I had this conversation with him, and he was like, what do you mean you're not going to tell anybody? And I was like, no, like, women can't say that stuff. And we had the most uncomfortable conversation where he just basically didn't say very much and just let me tie myself in knots around, you have to share this. Like, of course you do. It's everything you stand for. And the world needs these stories. And you need to tell the story. And of course he was right. And so I did tell the story, and I was sweating. Like, it was one of them, like, wrote the post, sending it to people, reading it 10 times, refreshing. You know, it definitely felt uncomfortable. And publicly, there was a huge outpour of love and admiration and celebration, and it was incredible. There was also a clear pattern that people don't know the difference between revenue and profit, which is really important. But, you know, as time passed behind the scenes, there was a lot of negativity and a lot of challenge and criticism that was, just incredibly disappointing, because it's never a healthy conversation that's kind of met with curiosity or nuance. It's a she's this now. And I think that kind of binary thinking and lack of space for conversation and dialogue, especially around things like money, when, you know, in this context, is so important. But I still don't regret it, and I know when each of you reach your £1 million revenue mark, you can put it on the internet and tag me.
Let's do that.
And my 5 million revenue post is coming one day.
Yes. So let's talk. You were very right in saying there's lots of women in the room who have, are maybe straddling a couple of businesses, have got a startup and a side hustle too. And we often meet women at events who are asking me, you know, when was the right time for you? You know, when did you jump into egg and realise that this is what you wanted to do? And I said to you earlier, it was when my dad died and left me a bit of money. You know, I felt, okay, there's a bit of something to fall back on. But it was also about the community around me going, you can do this, you can do this. So there was a bit of, you know, cheerleading in the back. Okay, I know what I'm doing, kind of, but let's just fucking do it, you know, because life is short. But not everyone has, you know, a bit of money on the side. When did you know? Because as you said, you've been building lots of businesses, and then I think you were straddling two for a while. When was that time when you went, right, I'm all into UPFRONT?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and it's hard because I wish there was a formula to say when your revenue's at this stage and you think your market's here, then it's time. Unfortunately, I think there will never be a time where you will feel ready. And it's that notion of there's no such thing as the right decision. There's just making the decision right. And for me, I absolutely did not have an inheritance pot or a partner with a nice salary or, you know, a safety net of wealthy parents. But I did have a huge amount of conviction in myself and in the proposition of the business. And I had a huge amount of evidence and data that the world wanted this business and they would pay for this product. And the circumstances for me was the other business that I was working on. At the time, I was the CEO of a small startup, and we got some initial funding to build a prototype, and we were building an app to teach people leadership skills. So we wanted to democratize leadership development. And then, of course, COVID came, and our money started to run out. And it was at that point where I started to feel like I was going to work every day to do a job I didn't really love so much, to come home and be excited and work on my own thing. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, they're both mine. And I don't need, you know, I think it did come down to me, the more kind of heart-led piece of this just brings me so much joy, makes me feel so alive. I would do this work. Because at that point, you know, I was in rooms like this. There was no online bond. The bond was a 9-to-5 workshop in a physical space. And I was like, I would do this all day, every day, forever, and never get paid. You know, because that it felt, I mean, I wouldn't, because I
want revenue.
I want £5 million. But, you know, it filled my cup that much. And so I had to really trust that. I think the other piece is about really sitting down with a spreadsheet and being very honest about your lifestyle. I meet so many women that are like, oh, I could never quit my job, that we couldn't afford it. I could never go freelance, we couldn't afford it. And it's like 9 times out of 10, yes, you can. For a while, you might not have the lifestyle you want to have, but it's like sit and write what is the bare minimum we need to be okay, to pay rent, to, you know, whatever that looks like for you and your people you live your life with. And then once you have that number, it's working back the way. Because you can't start with, okay, I'm on a 37 grand a year salary, how do I get that? It's like, you're not going to get that straight away. But you can figure out, okay, I need this much a month to be okay. I've got 6 months of that to try. And then after the 6 months, we'll reassess. So I always try and frame these things as safe to try experiments. So it's not like, is this the right thing? It's like, is this safe to try for 6 months? Is it safe to try? And you need to decide with yourself, with your people who are important to you, what does safe mean to you? You know, if the holiday to Tenerife is non-negotiable, then that goes in the safe. You know, it's like, no, I need that that feels important. Or, you know, whatever it is for you. And then you've got the data of what the numbers look like. And then you're just constantly making those decisions. It's like when you hire your first person, when you hire your second person. Every time I hire somebody, we're like, oh, can we, should we, will we? You know, we decided to host a conference. We've hosted 2 conferences. Last year, our conference was in Birmingham. We had Nicola Sturgeon, Cindy Gallop, absolutely incredible. It was my Christmas day, best day in the world. Huge risk for our business. You know, on paper, it was like, gulp. But we did it, and it was great. And that's what being an entrepreneur is. It's never going to feel safe. It's never going to feel comfortable. And sometimes you'll make the wrong call, but it's like, what's the worst thing that can happen? What is the worst case scenario? It's never that bad.
Just that you didn't try.
Yeah. Well, it's never that bad. Nobody dies. Like, you're all right.
You brush yourself off and move on.
Yeah.
And that conference, are you doing it again?
Hopefully. Hopefully. To be continued. Yeah, we would really love to do one in autumn in London. We did our first one in Glasgow. Turns out lots of people don't want to come to Glasgow, which is...
Oh, really?
Yeah, didn't love that.
Good
but, you know, the London gang like to stay near London. So we had Glasgow first, which I know some of you in the room were in Glasgow. It was a great day. Then we had Birmingham, and hopefully we'll be in London next. So you will be the first to know. Hopefully we can announce it soon.
Perfect. And talk to me about the team. So, you know, growing and leading a team is hard. As you said, every time you bring someone on, there's that gulp. Can we afford it? But can we not? Can we afford not to do it? There was a great question that... Thank you for all the questions that everyone
really
submitted. Some really, really good ones. And this one was great. And also to let you know, we're recording this as a live podcast. And so if you see me at one point going in a very Diary of a CEO way, Lauren, tell me about that one thing that women can do, that's, you know, that I'm just thinking about.
And I'll be like...
social media hook.
And I'll be like, clickbaity, not really real, something really negative, press it lots of times.
You got it, you've seen it too. So what in your, and this kind of leads into it, what in your business are you terrible at? Anyone recognise this? Is there a question? And did you acknowledge this would need to be outsourced from the start, or has it been a painful realisation?
So I did really love this question because there's 2 answers. So the first part of the answer is things that I was conditioned, led to believe I was bad at. And the second part is things I am literally terrible at. So the first part of the answer is, I think for a long time, I told myself I was bad at money because that's what the world tells girls they are, right? And most of us don't grow, you know, absolutely, I see it changing around me and I'm so excited about that. There's so many amazing podcasts and startups and products, you know, Female Invest and all sorts of incredible platforms, but they were not there when we were growing up. And I think I went to art school, and I think art school has a very particular narrative of you can't be an artist and make money at the same time. It's like you're going to have to choose. And I just always like, oh, I can't do it. Spreadsheets just made me feel ill. I can't do quick maths in my head. I don't understand percentages. Like it's a whole thing. And I've done a lot of work on that over the last 15 years. And I now understand that I am actually very good with money, and that I am really good at coming up with ideas that generate money and executing those ideas. I am good at having a vision for what that idea will look like, for finding the people to execute that vision. It's like I belong at a whiteboard, and I could turn that whiteboard into a £5 million plan. But I cannot do the spreadsheets behind that whiteboard. And that's okay, because now I have people in my team that do that. But for a very, very long time, I thought because I couldn't do that bit, that I was doomed to fail. So that was I thought I was bad at it, but that was actually just a story. The second piece is what I'm actually terrible at, and that is being organised. So I run this business from a desktop with no folders and no file names, and I never know where anything is.
I love you, Lauren. I love you.
And it drives my team wild. And I do my own head in because it slows me down. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. And that's okay. Figure it out.
I was looking at my folders, and every time my husband peers over me, he's like, 3,000 unread emails. Well, mainly vintage. Moving on.
Vintage reminders.
But, you know, it is that way that I think, well, I can't scale this business if I can't get my bloody inbox sorted.
You can. I think running a business is about what is the zone of genius that only I can do. I am the only person in my team, the only person in the world who could sit here in front of you and talk about Upfront and our mission the way I can. Nobody else can do that. Therefore, it's like, how do I design my working life so I'm doing this 95% of the time? I mean, that is my heaven. That would be my happy place. That's where I'm going. Because all the other stuff, there's lots of other people who can do that. Of course, as you're growing, you know, for a long time, I did all of it. You know, that's what being a founder and a freelancer is. You know, you're the marketeer, you're the accountant, you're the HR department, you're the brand director, you're the photographer, you're the writer. And no wonder we're tired, eh? But yeah, it's about figuring out what you are fantastic at. How do you enable, what's the system that you enable so that you can spend most of your time there? And understanding that your weaknesses are not weaknesses that mean I can't do this. Your weaknesses are, is this something I want to grow and strengthen and develop? Or is this something that I can outsource? Like, for example, I do think a weakness I had in my business for a long time, everything felt very personal. And I think that's very common for founders. It's like, you know, this thing of like, it's my baby and it's me, and there's not a really clear delineation between the product and the brand and yourself. And I've done so much work, both on the business and in my own self, to separate the two. And now when challenges come our way, I'm just in a much better place to deal with those things because I've done the work to understand that my business is not me. And I am not Upfront. You know, yes, it's intertwined. And the kind of current narrative or the project for me is Upfront is 4 years old. It is now time to scale the product, to scale the business. And that requires a CEO who knows how to scale. And so I go, well, I don't know how to do that. Maybe we need I'm not a CEO. Because I'm a founder. I'm good at 0 to 1 million. I'm good at there's nothing and now there's an incredible brand, there's an incredible product. Like, that's the bit I've done lots and lots of times. That's my happy place to play. And so my coach has been really helping me with, like, you are a CEO, you've just never done this bit before. This is the next phase, this is the new part, which requires a slightly different skill set and a slightly different mindset, but I can do it. I've just never done it before. And so I'm having, that's what I'm working on at the moment, is like when these things come my way around systems and processes, and I'm like, oh, this is out my depth, I don't know how to do this. It doesn't mean I can't do it and I'm not going to do it. It means I'm just learning.
And who do you've talked about getting coaching and advice, where are you going to? Like, who's your inspiration? What are you listening to, reading to? Who are you speaking to help you kind of grow and move forward with these challenges?
So my coach, shout out to Sarah, my coach has changed the game. I think for me, I was always a bit sceptical of coaches. I met and worked with quite a few over the years and kind of never found one where there was the magic click. And now I understand that it's a bit like dating. It's like you need to kind of meet a few until you find the one. And meeting Sarah has totally transformed how I think about my work and how I support and resource myself in times of difficulty. And something that we have been really working on together is exactly that, how I resource myself. Because I am really, really good at creating resource for other people. And I'm so good at that other people assume that I don't need resourced, which of course is not true. We're all human and we all need support networks. So I think my coach is a big part of that, and my partner and my family are a huge part of that. And in terms of what I'm reading and absorbing, I'm definitely in a phase at the moment where I am creating more than I consume. You know, what I consume, like I'm a huge reader. I've always got a novel on the go. I love listening to book podcasts. Like I feel like my consumption is intentionally away from the business because it just becomes too all-consuming. When I do want to engage with business stuff, Arlen Hamilton is definitely one of my go-to people for inspiration. She is an incredible entrepreneur, investor. She's just launched her own chat show on YouTube. So if you don't know her work, I would definitely check out Arlen Hamilton.
And I was listening to, you've got your own podcast. You were doing your own podcast, and the author, the girl her name's Steph from Fuck Being Humble. And when I listened to what she had to say, it really gave me a bit of, I was writing that kind of 10-year post and thinking about what I wanted to say, and I'll take that bit out. Oh no, I won't add that bit. And it was really a bit like a pep talk from Steph, you know, that real kind of reminder that we should not shrink back. And yeah, the conversation was great. What other women have inspired you? Which women have you spoken to in your podcast that you've loved?
So the podcast is currently on pause, which is a whole other part of the conversation about, you know, knowing when to launch, knowing when to quit, knowing when to pause, making the call, is this investment bringing return? Do we feel like we're getting back what we're putting in? And I know that we talked about this, obviously this is a podcast, you know, I think it's incredibly difficult. But I think Zoe Blaskey from Motherkind is a fantastic source of knowledge and resource around motherhood and parenting. You know, her and I have really brilliant conversations about the kind of intersection of confidence in motherhood, and, you know, this notion that it's very, very hard to be confident if you are extremely sleep deprived and irritated. And
everyone in this room, I would have thought, in some ways.
It's like we just don't have those conversations enough about the season of our life that we're in, and kind of honouring that season. I think we cannot be permanently in a season of progress and self-development, because those seeds are planted, and then, you know, you have to give them space to grow and bloom. And there's only so much, you know, I think especially in this space, and I often think it's because we care so much. It's like we care so much about our business, about our ideas, about the people we want to help, that it can get a bit heavy. And sometimes I'll be like, it's not that deep. You just need to build the thing, sell it to people who want to buy it. You know, it's not all about like a philosophical, deep analysis. And, you know, sure, do I think people in power could do with more analysis and self-reflection? 100%. But, you know, there's a space and time for that, for sure.
Talk to me about some of the clients. I want to talk about your bonds, because there's lots of women here who I think would be very interested in the bonds, but also very quickly the different types of bonds. And you've had some very big corporates that you've worked with. How did you get them, and what have you done for them?
Yeah, so first question, hands up if you've done a bond. Maybe 4, 5. Very cool, excited to see you. So the bond is our flagship product. It is a 6-week online learning experience, and it is all about teaching confidence, leadership, visibility, and power, centered around community. And there's 2 things that make UPFRONT different. One is that we teach confidence through a lens of intersectionality. So we are saying women are not an homogenous group. We are no more equal as a group than women and men are. And therefore we cannot treat women as one big group of sameness. So that means we're making space for conversation about identity around race and ethnicity, age, sexual orientation, class, education, because those things do affect our own relationship with our confidence and how the world responds to our confidence. You know, my accent gives the world a very specific message about my confidence. And if I'd gone to private school, that accent would be different, right? So, you know, these things matter. It's like they inform the stories you tell yourself and the stories that others tell themselves about your confidence. And so intersectionality is the first thing that makes us different. And the second thing that makes us different is that we are focusing on the systemic nature of this problem. And I guess I want you to remember that this was 10 years ago, when nobody was really talking about gender the way we are now. We were not talking about anti-racism, intersectionality. We didn't have language for equity and equality. It wasn't mainstream the way it is now. And the reason that I built UPFRONT is that I could just see a huge opportunity to create a product that could teach women this stuff, that was not Tony Robbins, Gary Vee, which I actually do love a Gary Vee from time to time, but you know, it's not going to serve all of us in this room, right? So you had that side of stuff, and then you had the kind of Royal Academy of Dance and Drama and Yoga and breath work, and again, like really important, but also not hugely accessible for everybody. So it's like, how do I build something in the middle that is rooted in the idea that this is a societal problem? This is not an individual woman's problem. The fact that there is an epidemic of women with low self-esteem, imposter syndrome, you know, is a direct consequence of the fact that we live in a patriarchy, that we live in a world where 90% of all people have a negativity bias towards women. And that is a statistic from the United Nations. It has not changed in 10 years. And that's why we need to talk about confidence in the context of being a woman. It's why we need spaces like this where women can gather and have these conversations together. So the bond, we launched our first bond in August 2021. And since then, we have had 11,000 women go through the programme from 24 time zones, 60 countries, with clients like the Ministry of Defence, Nike, the NHS, Spotify, across private, public and third sector. And the results have been totally transformative. We know that the average salary increase for a bond graduate is 46%. We know that bonders are 82% more likely to apply for a leadership position. And the model has been so successful that where we're at in the moment is we're building bonds for different purposes and different groups of people. So we now have a charity bond for women who work or volunteer for the charity sector. So Charity Bond 4 starts in June. We have government bonds for local authorities or government-funded organisations. Our public bonds, we're on Bond 9. It started just on Monday. And we have about 200 women from Korea, Australia, New Zealand. And, you know, we have jewelers, engineers at NASA, primary school teachers, surgeons. It's a very, very diverse group. And that's something else that makes us different. You know, we are not for mothers. We're not for entrepreneurs. We're not for women in business. We're not for, you know, we are for all women, no matter your profession or where you're showing up from. Having said that, we're now starting to build bonds for specific groups. So we have a bond for founders and freelancers. I built it just for all of you. It starts on the 17th of March. So that will be Founders and Freelancers Bond 2. And we are launching a new bond. I'm smiling. I'm trying to see where Jess is. I wonder if I should share it now. When does this? Because this is hot off the press, like exclusive.
Tell us, come on.
Okay. I'm so excited
Are you ready?
about this.
This is the hook.
So we are launching a Swift strategy bond to take all of the lessons and ideas and strategies from Taylor Swift's entrepreneurial journey so that all of you can apply them to your own business. Now, I don't care if you're a Swiftie or not. She is a masterpiece. She's a masterpiece. She is a masterpiece. She is a master in branding, storytelling, communication, reinvention, community building, selling herself, dealing with rejection. And nobody has studied that and turned it into lessons that we can all learn until now. So I had this idea over Christmas, and I tell you, my mum was like, okay, we need to sit down because I'm concerned about your well-being. I did not sleep or eat for 24 hours. I basically built the whole thing in a day. I was absolutely wired and so excited. I just think it is going to be incredible. So we are announcing the wait list on International Women's Day so that you can sign up to get early tickets, and hopefully it'll start in summertime. And so I guess that's the model. It's like we've got the Swift strategy bond. We've also got a visibility bond, which is free. And that's all about professional visibility, learning to put yourself out there. We're building a finance bond. We're also launching a leadership bond for our B2B clients. So UPFRONT is going to become the place where you go to learn. Because what we've done is we've built a learning experience that works. And yes, we've been teaching confidence, but now we're going to use it to teach other things. Yes, you will always have that red thread of confidence and community, but maybe you'll learn finance, maybe you'll learn personal branding, maybe you'll learn negotiation strategies, maybe you'll learn, people keep telling me they need one on how to get divorced well. I don't know. I've not personally been through that experience, but people keep telling me there's nothing out there to help us and it's really hard and difficult. And that, but that is like that type of thing of listening to people of, where are the spaces where we need knowledge, we need insight from experts, and we need community? And those are moments of transition, moments of change. I know you talk about grief, Kylie, in your own journey. It's like, how do we create bonds around those moments and bonds around all of the different types of expertise and skills that we want to build?
Sounds amazing. And was it going to the Taylor Swift concert? I saw you with your hat on. Was that the epiphany moment that, right, I need a bond for all about you?
It definitely played a part. I was always, it's a whole thing. For a very long time, I actively didn't like her. And I thought it was cool not to like her because I just absorbed all the bullshit and believed all the stories. Then I watched her Miss Americana documentary in 2020 and crying, jaw on the floor. Just could not believe, A, how duped I'd been and thinking she was this whole thing that she wasn't, and B, just awestruck by her mastery and her art and her grace and her leadership. And, my partner always likes to remind me that when we met 10 years ago, he was a Swiftie and he was into her first. And so then after Miss Americana, definitely enjoyed her music more and was a fan, but I was gifted a ticket from a friend of mine to go and see her live in Amsterdam, which was incredible. And that just changed everything. Hands up if you went to the Eras tour. I did 2 hands. She's like, yes! I actually just struggled to articulate the power of what she's created. And I just think there's so much that we can learn from her journey that she's still on. You know, she's getting constant hate, mainly from women, all day, every day. And she is generating wealth at a scale that we are not used to seeing. She is distributing and being generous with that wealth in a way that we're not used to seeing. And, you know, now I am really convinced that we need to pay attention and really study and learn from how she's doing what she's doing and apply it to our own practice. And my coach gave me the healthy challenge when I brought something to her. Then I'm like, what would Taylor do? And I'm like, me. So I'm also excited to apply it to my own practice. It's like that, you know, that's the amazing thing about, well, for me anyway, the products that we're building, I'm always learning along the way as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Let's all sign up for the Swifty bond.
Yeah.
And there's a few posts on your Instagram I was looking at, and one I took a screenshot of ages ago, and you're standing with a board. I think you've taken the words maybe from someone else who you kind of attribute, but you said, what would your twin brother do? Mm-hmm. And it's something I think about quite a lot if I'm hesitating or doubting myself or thinking, should I do that? It's like, what would your twin brother do? It's so powerful.
It's so powerful. It was Barry McFarlane, who's a novelist. And it was in the novel, and I just had this I was like, oh my God, I had like a full body impact. Yeah, I was like, holy shit, that question is so powerful. And I really don't buy this like act like a mediocre white man. It's like, no, thank you. Like we don't want to emulate behaviours and norms that are not serving anybody. You know, I don't think it's about that, but there's something in that question that just makes your own bias become so confronting. It's like you can't not look at the excuses that you're making for yourself. And of course, that has to come with self-compassion, because it's like the reason you're making those excuses is because you've grown up in the world as a woman, in a world where 90% of all people have a negativity bias towards women. But when you look at that and you think, well, what would my twin brother do? What would a version of me who had not had that context, what would they do? What would they be talking about if they were sitting here?
Not Taylor Swift.
Well, that would be a mistake. We should be talking about Taylor Swift. But you're definitely not Taylor Swift. And I think it would be... Yeah, well, that's also when it starts to become what you don't want to do, right? It's like we would probably be...
We'd be talking about investment.
We'd be pretending to be collaborating, where actually we'd be trying to get one up on each other, right? Like my business is a bit better than your business. Your business is a bit better. And you know, nobody wants to do that. But it's that moment of like, he would say yes, he would charge double. You know, it's like 28% of women who run their own business charge less than their male counterparts for the same service. That's mad. Like double your prices.
Now, this has all been about confidence, and you know, I know that women will come up to you saying, I want to be more confident. Mm-hmm. I see it all the time at events at Egg. We've done lots of things around confidence. Wilma, hello, we've done lots of things with you. What's that one tip? I'm see where I'm going with this.
All right, yeah. Get ready to tell a lie. Yeah. Okay, hold on.
What is that one tip that you can give to someone who's wanting to be more confident?
She's like this. My one tip. So my one tip, if you want to be more confident, is to understand that it is a muscle. And the way that you build muscle is by doing and taking action. Confidence comes from trying and doing over and over and over and over and over again. That's how you learn confidence.
That's a money shot. And it's about doing the stuff that really feels really, really painful, you know?
It's like if you're not cringing, you're probably doing it wrong. Or you're just playing safe. I mean, I feel like sometimes my growth, that's why I'm like, sometimes I need to just like, you know, chill out, stop launching things for a bit. So I'm like, the Instagram post I wrote 2 weeks ago, I'm like, oh my God, I can't look at it. But like, because you know, that's how it needs to be. It's like, if you're not cringing at your past self, then you're not progressing. And I think cringing is a signal. It's like a compass. Cringing, discomfort, awkwardness. I see those things as signals. It's like if none of those feelings are there, then I'm not aiming high enough. Similarly with rejection, it's like if nobody's ever saying no, then my ask is not big enough. You know, if people are just saying yes every time, telling me how great I am, telling me how great the product is, not going to grow that way.
We're coming to the end, but I'd love to ask you about your tattoos.
Tattoos?
Particularly tattoos. I'm from Glasgow too.
I love this question. I've never been asked about my tattoo, especially my new one. So yes, let's talk about it.
Well, the tall poppy one.
Tall poppy,
Someone
yeah.
had
Okay,
asked
here we
about
go.
Tall poppy. So talk me through the tall
Tall poppy. So tall poppy syndrome is the phenomenon that has been studied and researched that shows us that the more competent and successful a woman becomes, the less likeable she is. And the more that the people around her will try and cut her down. And my experience of being a tall poppy has been so severe that I have branded myself because I am learning to accept that I am a tall poppy. That is part of who I am and who I always will be. And that there are consequences to being that. And that's okay. So that's that one. This one is, oh my God, I've forgotten the name. Thank you. Fibonacci sequence. There's my art school buddy bringing it home. So learned this in art school, then forgot what it was called. So this is a Fibonacci sequence that is found in nature, and in my education, you know, when you're learning about visual design and how to create composition, you know, you get taught this to help you understand perspective and different things. So it's kind of been a present thing in my life. And then I had this phenomenal experience with an old colleague of mine, and they created this spiral on a field, a huge field made out of stones. And there was 5 of us, and they asked us all to go and stand at the stone of our age. So, you know, we're all finding the stone. And then probably over the next 30 minutes, they asked us a series of questions. So go and stand at the stone of the age you were when something happened that changed your life forever. Go and stand at the stone of the age of your oldest friend. Go and stand at the stone of the age of your youngest friend. And it was just a really powerful exercise. It really stayed with me. But the thing that just moved me to tears and I couldn't get over, actually makes me, it's just so powerful, was when I was standing at my age and could see how many stones were left. Because I think there's 2 types of entrepreneurs. There are entrepreneurs who feel like they're running out of time, so they're doing everything needs to be done now and yesterday. And then there's entrepreneurs who feel like there's too much time, so they need the push and need the adrenaline. And I am definitely the first one. Whereas I need to be reminded that I have time and that I can slow down and that I have many, many years of a really long and happy life left. And I know that most people need the opposite reminder to like, hurry up, life's short. That is not me. Like I did get that memo and have delivered. So yeah, this is to remind me of that moment and just remind me that I have time, and I have time. So that's that one. And this one I designed myself, and it is a symbol of contours that you see on a map, because my baby boy, who is now 7, is called Atlas. So that is a nod to my son and also to water, because moving to Sweden, I have fallen in love with cold water swimming and dipping in the ice holes and swimming in the lakes every day like a true Scandi. And it's just been such an amazing thing and has made my life better. So I wanted to mark that.
Lovely. And any more tats planned?
Well, I've had one every year on my birthday for the last 3 years. I feel like it's going to become a thing, potentially.
That's on my phone, is it?
So, yeah, there's definitely more.
Amazing.
My mum will be like, what? Yeah.
Lauren, thank you so much for being here. It's been absolutely incredible. I've loved it. And actually, I didn't write it, you wrote it, but I wrote it. I typed it this morning because it was just such lovely words. If you're kind, generous, and impact-driven, confidence helps you do more of that. If you want to help others, confidence gives you the tools to make a real difference. And if you believe in a better world, confidence gives you the power to build it. They're nice words. Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode. Thanks again to Lauren Currie and everyone at the W Hotel. Thank you to the team at Glow and to Team Egg, as always. Please do join the Egg Business Club. We would love to see you over there. And thanks again to Free Agent for all your support. Until next time.